Honey, today is the 2nd of September, so I'll have about approximately 34, 35 days left to go now. And I just got off OD last night, so I'm taking it easy this morning. I'm going to wait a few hours before I go to work, and figure while I got the chance, I'll try to get at least one side knocked out on this tape here. And I'll probably be pretty busy the next month, just getting everything ready for the next man to take over, whoever the poor devil may be. Been having to work pretty hard loading rock on the barge, and a lot of things have been going wrong at the barge site. Belts getting messed up on us, and it's kind of a pain, and sure be glad to leave it. Had a lot of trouble last night on OD. Somebody took a Jeep and ran over a Vietnamese. Had to go around with the MPs looking for the Jeep last night and trying to find out who drove it and all that stuff. So I was up just about all night last night. But I'll try to get about 30 minutes of this tape knocked out to you. Things have been going fairly well. We got a new company commander in. Lieutenant Bach, he went home about 4 or 5 days ago, and got a new man in now. He's a captain, and he seems to be okay. His name is Captain Ward, and he's took over, and he's just now learning what's going on. He never has been in an engineer company before. He's an ordnance officer. He's not even an engineer officer, so he's having a pretty rough time of it. And he has to depend a lot on me and Koga and all the other officers in the company, and to get him kind of started and teach him the ropes. There's a lot of officers went home the last month because the battalion came over here just about a month before I got here, so most of the officers that came over here with the battalion have gone home, except for a few of them that extended. So I'm just about been here longer than anybody else in the whole battalion. There's about 4 more that go home before I do, left in the battalion right now. I should be getting what they call alert orders within the next 2 weeks sometime, and that way with alert orders, they're not the real orders. With alert orders, that allows you to take all your stuff down there and send it home in whole baggage, and just set for the bare essentials, clothes and stuff. So all my stuff that I can't carry with me, I'll be probably sending home before too long, and it takes probably about a month before it gets there. So I'll send the tape recorder and all that stuff home in my whole baggage. That way I won't have to pay for it. The whole baggage is sent free of charge. And then I'll be dragging my carcass home before too long. I hope to leave Vung Tau the 6th of October. That'll be one day earlier than I'm supposed to leave. That way I'll probably be able to get processed out at Long Bend, and then leave Benoit Airfield sometime probably around the 7th. And that'll probably put me in Oakland somewhere around the 8th. And then I don't believe I'll have to stay there any longer than maybe a day and a half or something to get out. It takes somewhere around a day and a half, 2 days, somewhere in that neighborhood for an officer to separate from the Army. That means that all these records has to be checked over and filed, and I believe, I'm not sure, they give me a new dress green uniform to go home in. Just they give it to me, so I'll just have an extra uniform I don't know what to do with. I'm still not sure what my military obligation is going to be when I get back. I'm trying to find out whether I'm going to have to be in the active reserves for 2 years, or and in the inactive reserves for 2 more, or whether I have to go to any meetings or summer camps. I'd just soon not to go to any of it, because if I can, I just like to, I hope I just have to get to stay in the inactive reserves, which means you don't do nothing. And I don't want to have anything to do with the reserves anymore, unless I just have to. There's too much stuff going on here and in other countries around the world nowadays to risk staying in the Army or even in the reserves, because they called up a bunch of reserves for Vietnam, and I kind of think that something will break out somewhere, and they'll have to call up a bunch of reserves again, and there I'd be starting all over again. So I believe I better just get out while the getting is good, and the getting is getting pretty good. I believe that you'd have to come in just right to catch all 3 of the big offensives that the VC have launched against the United States. This is kind of a feeble offensive they're putting up right now, and in some cases it's not as publicized and widespread as the last 2 were, but they have started in. The only reason they haven't succeeded probably is because there's not as many of them this time. So I'm kind of glad to hear that they kind of about to fizzle out. They're making us keep our gas mask handy. They got word that they had a hold of some gas that they was going to try to put on the GIs, and don't know what kind it is or anything, so we have to keep our gas mask checked out and ready to grab in case there's an alert of any kind. We have to take our mask with us. So we hadn't been on the berm for a few days now, so I'm plenty happy with that. That sure was a kind of a pain going out there as often as we did. But for some reason we haven't been out there in the last week or so. So I'm glad of that. It sort of indicates to me that maybe the intelligence knows more about where they are. Before they weren't doing anything, they weren't attacking anywhere. They were just, things was kind of lax, but they'd keep getting these word that there'd be a possible ground attack and all this stuff. So we'd have to go out there and wait on them, but nothing ever happened. Now that they've started attacking various places, well then it seems like we sort of slowed down on the alerts. Everybody over here sort of kept up with a Democratic convention in Chicago that we heard about on radio, and newspapers over here have a lot of stuff about it, and it's kind of humorous. Everybody gets a big kick out of all these people like McCarthy and all these people that's really crying their hearts out for these poor old anti-war demonstrators that got hit upside the head at the Billy Club and was injured. All these poor old injured anti-war demonstrators that got hit upside the head and beat with sticks when the police tore into them. I thought, oh, this is brutal, this is terrible, The standard opinion over here was kind of appropriate. These nonviolent people, that want to raise all the stink, finally got a taste of what they should have got a taste of a long time ago. Any time that they charge a police line and try to break through a bunch of police, they can expect to get hit upside the head with a club. So kind of thought that was a pretty good deal, where the police cracked down on them and quit babying them around and start clubbing a few of them. That's kind of what they've been needing a long time. If the police would do that every time that they started some stuff like that, before long there wouldn't be any more stuff like that happen. And if George Wallace is elected president, well, they'll demonstrate and raise hell for a few times in protest of him being elected president, but it won't last very much. After 2 or 3 riots, and well, then they'll learn that they won't be able to get away with it anymore. How did your folks enjoy their vacation? Did your dad make any big discoveries with his metal detector. I imagine he's found a lot more stuff since I've been gone over here. So I'll be over there looking and seeing what all the stuff he's found. He probably found just about as much money with that thing by now as he paid for the metal detector to start with. So kind of look forward to seeing him again, seeing what all he's found, seeing you folks, Ronnie and everybody. Hope Ronnie does a lot better in school this next go around than he did last time. He kind of dropped the ball his first year there, but maybe he can pick up and maybe he greased by up there at OBU, I hope. All he has to do is pick up a book once in a while and see what's between the covers, and he'll get by. But you got to open the book first. That printed material in them books don't jump out and get all over you and automatically you know it. You got to, even though you don't show it, don't act like you study a lot, there's a minimum amount of studying that you got to do. I mean, you got to listen in class and then maybe at least the night before a test, he's going to have to get that book out and study it. And then he'll pass if he does that. But if he don't do that, well, then he'll have a rough time of it again. I really enjoyed my trip to Australia. I probably told you a lot about it on the telephone, much to my regret after I hung up the phone and looked at my watch and saw how much it would probably cost me. But I still like to talk to you so much on the phone, and it's so clear the phone was. It sounded like he was just right there and across the street or something like that. So I just couldn't hang up. I just kept talking on, and probably have to sell a car now, pay for the telephone calls. Anyway, Sydney, Australia is a real beautiful city, and I won't make any boners about it. They have some good-looking women there in Sydney, Australia. Like I told you before, it seems to me like they're bigger looking than American women. I guess they've been outside in that Australian sunshine so much, they just grow bigger. They have a lot more elbow room in Australia. Australia has about 10 million people, and the United States has 200 million people, and Australia is bigger than the United States. I really enjoyed my trip to Tamworth, out there to that ranch. This guy, I guess it was just luck that would have it that he was the same age I was, engaged in a similar occupation as I was, and me and him hit it off just right. He had about the same interest as far as agricultural activities go, and I learned a lot from him, the way they do things down there. People down there are real friendly. They fed me real good, and of course it was so cold down there. I was the first night I was down there, I like to froze to death. It'll just be getting to start in wintertime probably when I get back. It'll still be a little bit warm, so at least I won't be right in the middle of the dead winter when I get back home. But I guess I hit it just at the tail end of wintertime down there. It still was real cold in a lot of places down there, and they was just getting over with a few big snows down there. They'd had some snow about 2 weeks before I got down there. Of course, I suffered when I got back. It'd been so long since I ridden a horse, and I rode so much that it rubbed it sort of chafed my skin, and I was real sore. I couldn't hardly walk for about 2-3 days. It didn't bother me when I was down there, but I gradually got real sore, and I was pretty slow to get around for a few days after riding them horses. And I recovered though, so I'm fighting trim right now. By the way, horses is the only thing I rode while I was down there. Thought I'd throw that in. These people down there in Australia know just about as much as what's going on in America as the people that live in America knows. I guess the reason for this is they got television down there, but they have a lot of American TV shows. In fact, just about all their TV shows is from the United States, and they only have about 1 or 2 TV shows made in Australia, and they're pretty sorry. But so when you're watching their television, except for the news and the weather and stuff like that, all the series are American TV. The Fugitive is still on down there, and Gunsmoke, Bonanza, and all these TV shows that you have in the States, and that's why they're probably get to have more background of the United States through television shows. And people in the United States don't know hardly a thing about Australia. On average, they know most people know Australia is down there somewhere underneath the world down there someplace, and they got kangaroos hopping around, you know. And but the actual life of the Australians, people don't know anything about. Charles O'Neill, the man I stayed with there, he'd been to New York because he's been to 17 countries. He used to play cricket. That's kind of like baseball. They use a bat and a ball, and he was real good. And he got to go play in 17 countries playing cricket. And they stopped in the United States, and he got to see Philadelphia and Boston, New York, a few places like that I had never been. So he could tell me a few things about the United States that I didn't even know about. But back to what I was talking about, he said that he'd go in the stores and want to buy something, and people couldn't understand what he said up in New York, around there, and they'd ask him again, and they'd find out, and he'd tell them that he was from Australia. And about half the people in New York said they didn't know never heard of Australia, or didn't know where it was. They thought it was in Europe. Some of them thought it was over in Europe, and some of them thought it was down by South America. And he was real surprised to find out just how little people knew about Australia, or where it was, or anything. And they all know about President Johnson and all this stuff, and who's running for president. And I have to admit, I didn't even know their president's name. So I felt sort of, I don't know, it gives you sort of a bad feeling that all these people know all about your country, and you don't know hardly anything about theirs. But I think I've learned a lot now about it, and I looked a few maps of Australians. They're different. They got 5 different, what we'd call states, they call territories. There's 5 of them down there. And they have a Hobart, Australia, too. So they say it's Hobart. Yeah, I got in a friendly argument with Charles O'Neill, my host there, and it's spelled the same, and he said, no, it's Hobart. It's not Hobart. So I said, well, where I come from is Hobart. So they pronounce it a little bit different, but it's still Hobart to me. Saw a lot of kangaroos while we were down there. We went kangaroo hunting, and kangaroos is so plentiful down there. They're kind of like jackrabbits. They're a pest. They eat wheat crops. They hurt the crops and stuff, and there's millions of them down there. And he killed about 500 of them last year, he said, just trying to thin them out. The particular place where I was, their house had only had electricity for a little over a year. So they didn't have a whole lot of electric appliances all over the place. Of course, they had a television set and lights and stove, stuff like this, but their house wasn't really equipped like American house is, with all electric everything, electric can openers and all this stuff. It's catching on now, but in the big cities they probably have this stuff. But out in the back like that, where they didn't have any electricity, they had to have a little bitty generator. It wouldn't put out much electricity, but they can still have electrical appliances without having electric lines. But they finally got electricity, so that's something new to them, having a source of power. And I took a few pictures of the house, and I took a picture of their living room with all their old antique table and this big antique thing with a silver punch bowl or whatever it is sitting on top of it. I figured you might like to see that, so I took a color picture of it. And stuff like this down there is not real all dear to them. It doesn't seem like, since the next door neighbor's got one just like it, probably, well, it sort of loses its value to them. I'd sure hate to turn an antique hunter loose down there for a few days. She'd probably go crazy running around looking at all that old stuff they have down there. Actually, the country is not real old. It's about 200 years ago that they even found Australia. And all the people down there, the Australians, are descendants of criminals, thieves and robbers and rapists and murderers and all this stuff. Because England had discovered Australia. Some guy from England discovered it, and down there wasn't anything down there, just Aborigine tribes and stuff like this, and it was all desert and undeveloped. So what they do, they fixed them fixed it to where that all their prisons and stuff, instead of putting guys in prison for a crime, they'd send them to Australia and have prisons down there, with army men guarding them. And that's how they dealt with their criminals. They sent them all to Australia. And after their sentence was up, they had a choice. They could either come back to England, or they could go out there and start, clearing some trees and jungle off the land and start farming. So a lot of these criminals just stayed down there. They just scattered out all over Australia, formed little towns and settlements, and then they'd start farming, and they'd claim great big sections of land and stake it out and say, this is mine, So that's how Australia really got started. And this has been around 200 years ago. So all of them, just about all the Australians can trace their family tree back to some guy that was in prison for this, that, and the other. So they're not offended. They get a pretty good kick out of telling about this, because it's been probably so long ago that it'd be a real distant relative that was involved. Well, it looks like I still got a long way on this side here. I don't guess I'll make both sides of this tape this time. So I'll try to finish up at least one side here and then get this off in the mail to you. I got the new Playboy in the mail yesterday, and I got a pretty big kick out of it. There's one cartoon in there that I just about died laughing at. It's this guy that, his name is Julius Pfeiffer. You read his cartoons in a lot of magazines and newspapers. He used to write these 2-page long, story-type cartoons. And you probably remember looking at it if you read through the magazine. This old boy, he's sitting up in bed, and he's just sitting up in bed, wide awake, and he looks at his watch. Well, he sits up in bed and waits, and then he looks at his watch again. He sort of slumps down a little bit and yawns and lays there, and his eyes go about half shut, and then he looks at his watch again. Well, he's getting real sleepy now. He's kind of slumps down a little bit, and he yawns and lays his head back on the pillow, and he looks at his watch again. Sort of his eyes sort of go closed, and he's just about to go to sleep, and he turns over on the pillow, and finally he just looks at his watch again, and Then he just can't stay awake anymore. Now he's going to sleep. Here comes his wife in there and pulls open her nightgown and says, "I'm ready now, George. George! George!" And the next picture, well, she's sitting up in bed and "It's a Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson." It has curlers in her hair and everything. It's pretty funny. I just about died laughing when I read it. Had some pretty good jokes in there this time. Also had a few good pictures in there too this time. I don't know whether you read the Playboy party jokes or not, but here's one I'm going to read to you in case you didn't read it. Here it goes. It says, "I was married twice," explained the man to a newly discovered drinking companion, "and I'll never marry again. My first wife died after eating poisoned mushrooms, and my second wife died of a fractured skull." "That's a shame," offered the friend. "How did that happen?" "Oh, she wouldn't eat her mushrooms." And there's another one down here. This hippie was talking to this here flower child he just met, and they was talking, and this hippie asked her, says, "Say, have you ever been picked up by the fuzz?" And she says, "No, but I bet it really hurts." I guess by now, well, sometime September, just about all the schools will be started around home there, and colleges and everything, so football season, all the activities probably be going pretty strong. Hold one. I'll wait for this airplane to quit flying over. Pretty loud to me. I don't know whether you can hear it or not on the tape. I'll back it up and play and see if you can hear it. Well, I don't have too much left on this side, doesn't look like. So I'll probably get this in here in the mail to you today, and that way I can get some use out of this tape recorder here. It's a pretty handy little gadget. Kind of glad I got it. Of course, we'll still have one when I get home, and it'll probably come in handy for a lot of different things. So Vinards have one, so we can correspond back and forth with the Vinards, and maybe we can send a couple of tapes to Amy once in a while. Johnny Max has one now, so ought to be pretty good. I think Johnny Max has one. If I remember right, you said you got them one time. I keep looking any day now for my replacement to get in. Still don't have any replacement, or not even a sign of one as yet. And it'd be nice for him if he got here just about a month or 3 weeks before I left, so I could show him all the stuff I got to do around here. Kind of feel sorry for him if he gets here after I leave, or maybe 2 or 3 days before, because have to show him the ropes and show him what all things I have to do and how to do it and where to get stuff, and teach him all the different things he has to do, and introduce him to all the people that I have to deal with in order to get these things done. If I could just sort of leave him on his own, well, he'll have to sort of learn from my men. I've got several my men that's pretty well trained is what they're supposed to be doing, and if he doesn't get here in time, well, then they can probably help him along. I don't have too many men left now. I've got less than 20 men. A bunch of them been going home on me, and I hadn't been getting too many back in replacement. Yeah, I guess they're going to have to start drafting some more over there, because we're really hurting for men over here in this outfit anyway. So I'll get down there and tell Miss Reinmiller to start cranking up the draft, start dragging a few of them in. Well, I'm getting pretty sleepy now. Hope I can tough it out to the end of this tape. I sure do miss you, and I look forward to seeing you in Oklahoma City. And I'm counting the days now, but it seems like the closer I get, each day just seems to kind of drag by real slow. Like a couple of months ago, it seems like it was going real fast, because I had so many days left that I was far enough away to not really get too short. But now, this last month is going to be miserable. I can tell already, because it seemed like yesterday, well, it was Sunday, and I was on OD just sitting around there, and it just seemed to go so slow, and well, I hope it picks up and starts going real fast here before too long. But the last few days, I talk just about everybody that gets that short. Well, that's the same thing they always tell me. The last month, it seems to be the longest one. And I'm sure we'll be glad to see you again, and we'll stay in Oklahoma City there for a while before we go home. That is, if everybody's in real good health at home, we'll stay there in Oklahoma City. And we'll have us a good time. I sure look forward to it. And I sure have missed you the last few months. A year away from home is a pretty long time. And get back in the good old United States will really, really be nice. Old Jim's brother John's in the Army now. He's in AIT at Fort Leonard Wood. He just got out of basic training, went to AIT, and he's going to engineer OCS just like me and Jim did. So he's still got a long way to go. Of course, at one time, when me and Jim had an equally long way to go, but then that's all past now. So we sort of harass him once in a while. Jim will write him a letter, and we really give him a bad time. Well, I can't see any more tape, so I guess it's just about to come to an end. So take care of yourself, honey, and remember, I love you very, very much, and I miss you, and we'll be seeing you before you know it. By the time you get this tape, well, I'll probably have somewhere around 30 days left to go, if I get it in the mail today, of course. So then it'll be 29, and then 25, 20, 15, 10.